for our team, and I mean, we're still relatively a new inspection company, about 2.5 years in. And but I guess what we're noticing is that 2.5 years ago when we started, I mean, COVID was just starting up. And so we kind of braved through all of that, but just the increased cost, everybody's experiencing the increased cost of everything, whether it's a tank of gas or whatever tool you're buying or whatever it is. And so from what I'm seeing in this area and what the average cost of a home inspection is, I'm just like taking a look back before my time at 10 and 15 years back, trying to get a little better view of how far home inspection pricing or how much it's increased over the years. And it really hasn't increased that much. And we're looking, like I said, at an increased cost of everything, cost of living, just everything. And I'm like, how in the world can we not have an increased cost of home inspection when everything else is going through the roof? And so trying to get other people in this area, and I have to be thinking that other inspectors in this area are feeling the pinch just like we are. And so, how do you gauge that with other inspectors in the upstate? It may be a little different in the lower part of the state, but I know for the upstate area, average cost of a home inspection is probably between $350, $450. And so I'm just like, okay, this is, we've all got to come to an understanding. It seems to me that inspectors, they don't want to decrease their price or increase their price, I should say, because they're worried that the next guy's going to undercut them by 25 or 50 bucks and lose the inspection. And so somehow, some way, we've all got to get on the same page here and in agreement as far as pricing goes, so that we do this simultaneously and we're all in agreement. I mean, I don't know any other way to approach this. If somebody's got some ideas, I'd love to hear them.
You described the problem accurately. When my brother and I were doing home inspections 20 some years ago outside of Philly. Now, we were in a very nice neighborhood. We were in the main line, which is called the main line because it goes from Washington, D.C. through us to New York City. And so the average home there was around $900,000. But we were charging $589 for a home inspection. And in 5.5 years, I was in business only. I was able to, I took home $1,000 a day. It was a bad day for me. But I worked every day except Christmas, like a nut. But in 5.5 years, after, feeding a family of 4 and sending 2 kids to private school, one sitting next to me right now, actually, I was able to save $970,000 in the bank. And at which time then I sold Peach Inspections. It's still running today on its 4th owner, by the way, that company. So it's a 35-year-old company. That put me over $1 million in cash in the bank, which I thought was pretty good for 5.5 years work to save that much money. And it was much easier than it is now. Nowadays, I think there's a few ways that you could, raise prices. And I wrote a lot about this in the books I've written, Stacks and then Scale Up. But one is over obvious is to just start doing offering ancillary inspections and upselling them, mold and radon and water, and septics, everything you can, infrared and radon, everything, right? So that brings the dollar price per invoice up. And since you've already kind of captured the client, most inspectors don't quantify what it costs them to capture that client, but it's a lot. And so once you have that client, it's better if you can charge them twice as much for services that you provide. That's kind of like, I would say, the most simplest way of trying to make money in this period where we're not keeping up with inflation. We have the Inspector Museum at the House of Horrors, one in Boulder, and there are some inspection reports from the 1970s there. And inside those reports, some of them have the invoices. And those invoices have prices that look like today's prices. So can you imagine anything?
And it was in what year?
70s.
Oh my gosh.
So can you imagine prices of any industry not going up for half a century?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, somewhere. I
Something
mean,
has to
we
give,
got,
yeah.
you know, it's like, okay, who's going to lead the way?
So the other way to
bite the bullet and do it, or, I mean, because we are upselling. We're offering everything from thermal imaging to, you know, of course, your CO 100s, septic inspection, pumping, radon. I mean, we're doing it. We're offering everything.
And you say we, how many are there of you?
There's 3 of us.
Okay, so what do we really want to combine a couple of these things together to create some synergy to make more money. So what does like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and what do they all sort of have in common? And how, you know, they're rich, but how did they get rich? And one of the things they have in common is that they have employees and lots of them. So that's the other way to possibly do it. I mean, I have 112 employees right now in my 14 operations. Unless you're Tiger Woods, it's probably not going to be possible to get wealthy using your own 2 hands. Just your own 2 hands, unless you have some really amazing skill, right? Like Tiger Woods. It's probably not going to be possible. So I would say, you know, you have to start scale up is that my free book, which is at certifiedmasterinspector.org/scale. And it tells you how to build a company with more employees. And yes, it's more of a headache. It becomes more of a management business rather than an inspection business, but that's how you get rich. It's just not possible to make a lot of money alone. I mean, I would say there's almost a correlation between the very wealthy, and the wealth gap keeps growing in this country, and the number of employees they have. So that's a second way, I would say. So not, you know, add a lot of services, add a lot of employees. I think without pitching CMI, I think CMI is definitely a way to get more inspections and command higher fees for those inspections. In fact, it was my solution to licensing, which caused prices to go down, you know, because it commoditized us a little bit, as all licensing does. And so CMI was a way to distinguish that and to instantly, within 3 seconds, be able to deliver an argument to a potential client that you charge $100 more than all your competitors, and here's why, and to have that argument stick. And then I would say, maybe I don't want to go to too many. I have 100 of these, but I would say I'm trying to get the 4 big ones. The last of the 4 big ones would be commercial, I would think. You know, I haven't done a home inspection in maybe 25 years, but I do, you know, about 1 commercial inspection every 6 weeks. And, you know, to get me out of this chair and go to any kind of inspection takes a lot. But I mean, if someone wants to pay me thousands instead of hundreds, I'm going. And so it's just been more lucrative for our commercial inspectors than they thought at first. They thought, okay, well, CCPA launched and they're going into commercial. We'll follow. I have a lot of followers, I guess, maybe almost like groupie level followers that they'll do anything I say. But those guys were actually kind of shocked at the fees they were commanding. And we've done a lot of videos on them, and you can see them on Facebook. Sometimes, $15,000 for an inspection. Now it takes them 3 days, but that's $15,000. It's a chunk of change. It's life-changing money to get a couple of big commercial jobs a month. So I would say that, we only have an hour here today, but those are the 4 big ones that I would say, and a combination of them provides some synergy so that 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 ends up being about 7.
Do you have any links? Do you have some links that you can share with me? Maybe through Lisa, that you can send me so that we can kind of
yeah, I think
hone in on all this.
this guy wants to say hi.
And then
Buddy.
man.
Oh,
Hello, man. What's your name?
Ace.
Pace.
oh man, he's gotten big.
Hi, Ace.
Now my kids have names that are advice to them. So Pace is, I want him, he's a boy, so I don't want him to stop. And I don't want him to go erratic either. And so I just want him to keep a pace in life and in business. And he helps me.
He's about 7 years old, 7 or 8.
He is just turned 5.
Okay.
So
I can only see about this much of.
then I got a 30. How old are you, Nikolai? There he is. I'm trying.
Hey guys,
Runs Inspector out. How old?
I'm 34.
34. So I got him very far apart.
Yeah, I've got them 25 to 31.
But if you want to leave money to your kids, if you want to accumulate wealth and leave something to them, leave a little money for your family when you're gone, and to your children, and to, be able to store some wealth. I've written a lot about it in the inspection industry. You have to take, there's no like one magic pill I can take and it's going to make me rich. You have to take, a lot of the strategies and apply them all at once so that the synergy happens. It's almost like a magical synergy. That's how I ended up with 112 employees, actually, because there's synergy in having all this stuff going on for you, so that when it multiplies rather than adds. I guess it's a way I could describe it. And for inspectors, I think they're going to have to, deploy many of the strategies, and they don't have to be the ones I think work for me, from the scale book. I think NACHI.org, certifiedmasterinspector.org/scale has 101 ways to grow and systemize your inspection business. And I think if you took some of those strategies that maybe appeal to you, or, oh, I really like that one, or I can do that one, I feel comfortable doing that one, or I have confidence in that one, I think that'll work. And if you took some of them, 6, 7, 8 of them, and started applying them, some of that magic in the math would occur financially for an inspector. I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical, but that's kind of what I think, because the inspection industry is still kind of like a pay for time kind of industry, and you have to be careful not to be a street hooker. And what I mean by that is, like, a street hooker charges per the hour, right? And we don't want to be that. We're trying to figure out how to.
I wouldn't know, man.
Okay, well, I'm just, we do a lot to be in business as business people. It takes a lot of risk, takes a lot of education, it takes a lot of thought. It eats you up at night. I mean, at 5 o'clock, we don't just shut off our day and go enjoy our personal life and sleep. It eats us up. We sleep and turn at night and thinking about it. So it takes a lot to be a businessman. There's no reason to be it, or a business person, I should say. There's no reason to do it all just to make a good living. That's probably not enough of a reason to do it. You probably have to make a great living to do it. And I just don't think that some of our industry is stuck being a home inspector instead of being a business person in the inspection business. And so if we could work more with them. And the way we work with them is to get them into the chapter. And if you want your chapter to just grow, and that there's a big advantage to being a chapter president. There's all kind of advantages you can exploit, but you know, I have a woman who sits here 4 days a week who 90% of her job is to stuff envelopes for me and mail things out for me. I mean, that's about 90% of what she does. So if you have an event coming up in South Carolina and you want me to pack it, if you can give me like 4 weeks notice, tell me about it. I'll write a letter and she'll just blast it out to all of South Carolina. And you may say, well, why can't you just email it? You know, it's 2023. And because that's why. Because you know, email and Facebook and social and the forum and what's new, and all that kind of works, but it's the newsletter. But when you get a piece of mail, you know, I mean, oddly, I've been putting myself on mute today while I was talking to you because I'm opening all my mail. You know, I mean, my mail is interesting to me. You know, we actually took the time to send it here. We use real stamps, and it's a real invitation to come to your South Carolina chapter event. You know, we'll blow it up. And at that point, then you have the ability to stand at your podium and explain that, you know, that we're not charging enough and to push people up. And the guys who are charging a lot, they should charge more too, because if you can lift the ceiling, you can lift the people underneath it feel comfortable. There'll always be people with weak stomach who say, oh, you know, I can't raise my prices $5 or nobody will ever use me again, you know? And so those people need some strength and some encouragement. We're not all alike. And some of that encouragement comes from leadership at the chapter meetings and support and a feeling like they have some camaraderie locally and some help.
Well, tonight's turnout should tell you something that I don't feel like anyone in the upstate is feeling like there's any camaraderie. The last chapter meeting we went to, I'm trying to think.
Well, we
what
revived
it
this.
was.
Yeah, we
Pardon?
revived this one from the one that we were speaking about. I think the chapter head went out of business. The gentleman, he sold his business with Win.
Correct.
That went
Correct.
through.
And the
But
whole thing, that was the only one we went to that we had been invited to, I guess it was about a year ago.
yeah,
And then when next thing we know, we found out that he was out of business, sold his business, and everything just kind of dissolved. And I'm like, okay.
A couple big hedge funds buying up home inspectors, and I think it's going to be a good thing because, you know, hedge funds they want to make, you know, they want to make a large cap. They want to get into the, you know, 25% profit margin, and they want to returns of 20, 25%, 30%. Otherwise, we'll just all buy stock in an index fund, right? So these hedge funds, they want a big return, so it's going to force them to raise prices.
Back to, let me ask you a question on the commercial side. In doing that, do you recommend keeping that completely separate or using a separate LLC for commercial versus residential?
So you could keep the same LLC, but you can't keep the same outfit. And what I mean by that is, if for you to land commercial inspections, you'll dissuade business people who are buying a big commercial building from using you if they think you're a home inspector that's in over their head. So you could build a separate website, or you could just take a certain section of your website that almost has all commercial. I have a lot of commercial articles, a lot of commercial videos, just pound it all out, like 10 pages, all commercial, and then pick one of them as like a second homepage, and then domain forward to it for your new commercial company. And you can, you know, if you have ABC home inspections, maybe you can make ABC commercial, but you want them to land on something where they say, oh, everywhere I looked, I saw home inspectors, but here I found a commercial inspector. That's the guy I want, right?
Gotcha.
So, you know, in anything, as an officer in the military, they don't give you the wrong, you have all kind of weapons at your disposal. And the reason there's different weapons, and, you know, the military industrial complex makes different weapons, is because the enemy's coming at you in different ways. So you don't take a light anti-tank weapon and try to shoot down a plane with it, right? It just doesn't even make any sense. So if your target is, a commercial buyer, or if you're in a commercial investment club, like I'm the only inspector in a commercial investment club. So they send me out on everything. Then the tool to take down that elephant or whatever is an elephant gun. I mean, you want the right weapon. So it's the same with your marketing. You want marketing that's all commercial, so you could bring down, I don't call it bring down, but I guess it's what it's called, bring down that commercial client, and land them, bag them, I guess how you want to look at it. I guess I keep looking at it from like a shooting. I'm like a gun guy. So I look at everything like I'm shooting at something, maybe. And I'm using the wrong terminology, but you want the right weapon to bring down the right targets.
I understand.
And so a home inspection website does not bag a commercial client. In fact, it dissuades them, because they're like, oh, this guy is just way over his head. I mean, look at his website. He's inspecting little $200,000 houses. He's going to inspect my $2 million warehouse. No, who do I get for this? You know what I mean?
Basically,
All
you have to
engineers,
tailor-
most engineers back off. They're like, well, we don't really inspect. We like calculate, So there's nobody filling that gap, South Carolina's given me some trouble about, but they've backed off a little bit. They're the only state that has some regulation on the books, but they didn't complete it. They funded a law that says only commercial contractors and engineers can do commercial inspections. We've gone back and forth with them a little bit about it, and they seem to have backed off. I'm like, well, this isn't, you're not protecting consumers here. This is business to business. And so you don't really have a right to stick your nose between two businessmen, right? I mean, a commercial buyer of a commercial building, is going to need someone who specializes in commercial inspections, not, and a building might be 100 years old, not an engineer who makes calculations. So there's we're having a little bit of argument in South Carolina over that. But I would take that. I would take, try to grow. I would also do like what I call the BMW test with your marketing, maybe your brochures. And what I mean by that is like, take your brochure to the BMW dealership and put it in that round thing that spins around with all their models, because they got a bunch of models, and ask yourself, does my inspection brochure look like it would fit, like it was designed and it would fit in with all these beautiful BMW model brochures? And that's kind of what you want to kind of get to, in every business. Here I am talking about this while I'm wearing I must have wearing my tinfoil hat. But in any business, where you're approaching your targets, your consumers, right? You can never be too pro. You can never be just so outlandishly, ridiculously pro. Like I look to the outside world. I mean, InterNACHI does. I mean, CCPA does. CMI does. Everything I touch does. I try to go full blast, full pro. I mean, these staffers will tell you every little detail. Like today, I had a big complaint that there was a chapter event announced with an email address that wasn't hyperlinked. I literally I'm really complaining about that. I mean, I want everything to be perfect. And so I think that also you could maybe abandon your industry. All your people who are competing with you in your town, maybe the right thought is to just abandon them and say, I'm now leaving you. I'm going to go up. I'm going to lift myself up 3 foot off the ground. I'm no longer one of you. And I'm going to take this thing pro. I'm going to be in a different category than you. And you all starve and fight over whatever you can for $300.
Nick, what do you think about the truck wraps as part of your marketing? Like, does that bring you up professionally, or does it put you in the middle?
If it's done right, I certainly think it does, right? So you could pull up to your inspection in a, some Mopar car with Burger King bags rolling out the door. Or you could just amaze them with the vehicle. When I started out so young doing inspections. I was in my early 20s, right? So it's just an example of what I'm talking about. I hired a retired HVAC contractor. HVAC contractors make really good employees to hire for home inspections because they don't really want full-time work, and they know roofing, they know plumbing, they know electrical, they know HVAC, obviously. Because to put in an HVAC system, you have to know a lot of things. You have to wire it and plumb it and go through the roof and X-ray vision for the ductwork and all that stuff. So I would hire those elderly, nice-looking men, and they would dress better than me. So they had ties. I mean, they were my age at the time, you know. And when I got out of my truck, I carried 4 toolboxes full of tools, which I eventually laid out all over the kitchen, just again, to just impress people, because you're kind of still in sales mode. I want people to talk great about the operation, but I never let my older helpers carry any toolboxes, and I let them go out in front of me, and everybody just thought they were the lead inspector, and they would take them to the HVAC system and impress them, right? So it's the same thing. You have to find your weaknesses and just fill them with just like top level, number one, boom. Another trick I did is I rented space in the Remax building, which is the biggest Remax building on Main Line, with I don't know how many agents they had, 170 or something. But Remax, the way they work is they don't pay these agents a commission. They don't split a commission with them. They rent them desk space. And so every Remax agent is actually keeping 100% of their commission, but they're paying rent every month. So it attracts really agents that are very productive. So as I was able to go to the broker and rent a spot inside that Remax building. And that really helped me a lot too. This is pre-internet, so I'm not sure it'd be as effective today. But again, even my location was in a spot that that just reeked of professionalism. And of course, all the agents in that building used us. It gave us enough work to last forever. The rent paid for itself every day. I mean, I got paid every day for my rent because there's at least a couple agents using us in that building. So, I mean, that's sort of a fifth thing you could do is just look at your thing objectively, look at your whole operation and say, can I go up? Can I take this thing up so that I could command higher fees? You know, we are in a big disadvantage in the fact that we share a common client with the real estate agents who get to our client just a little bit before us. And so, you know, they're not any smarter than us. They only took a 2-week course. I was a real estate agent. What do you do? They put their pants on just like we do. They're not any, in fact, they know a lot less, right? But they get to our client just a little bit ahead of us. And so we end up having to rely a little bit on them giving us work. And so when you're out there, like if you had a building that was very visible to the world, it may be very expensive to put professional signage on it and have such a space rented like that. But it gives you the advantage that you get to the client ahead of the real estate agents, rather than them getting to your shared client just before you and deciding who is going to do the inspection. So more and more trying to reach the client past the real estate agent, I think is another thing you could think about and trying to get your prices up. And then if you've been in business, you said 2.5, 3 years, you're probably not doing this. No, very few inspectors do that, but I would work your past clients at this point. I mean, about 1/3 of all people are moving within 3 years. And so 1/3 of your database is buying a home this year. How many of those are you going to get? You know, you might want to do that. The silly thing I did, I mean, I came up with all kind of marketing things, but the one silly one I remember that worked really well is I would pay attention to if they had a pet. And a lot of people have pet dogs, and I would just send them dog bones from their home inspector once with a list of all the new types of inspection services that I now offer, and asking them, would they like an annual inspection, or would you like an inspection before winter? You know, radon's becoming an issue. Would you like us to do a radon inspection and stuff like that? And I can't remember why I did the dog bones. I think I got them for like so cheap. like a quarter or something. But it had what I call
Probably
thumb,
$1.50 now.
yeah, probably everybody else is raising their prices but us. But it had some thumb value, so it's like if you get a piece of mail that says some blah blah blah, that's different than if you get a piece of mail with a dog bone in it. I mean, it's just an attention grabber, and so that actually worked pretty well. And I was able to get a lot of work from my past clients. Now, if you can imagine being in business someday, you'll be in business 5 years, and if you can get, you know, if you can get all of your clients to recommend you to 2 clients, or if you could get all their work again, you know, on average, if each past client could give you 1 job from somebody, you know, a neighbor, a coworker, a family member, or themselves, when they go to buy a new house, then you're basically doubling your business just by working your past clients. And if you did it again in another 3 years, you've quadrupled your business just from that little operation, right? Not from the organic work you're doing in the field to get more work. But remember, more work is only profitable if each individual piece of work you're getting is profitable. So you have to get your prices up so that your margins are up, and your efficiencies up so that your margins are up, so that when you get more work, it's not just more work for 0 margin. What's the point of that? That just means you're working 12 hours a day for nothing. You have to, you know, I mean, I basically run these same things, models, in all the businesses we have, and they all seem to be doing really well like this for many years. But there's no benefit in just taking the potatoes in life. I would just aim for the gravy.
Nick, did you do much with new construction inspections, builder warranty? Did you have a special way of tying into that? Were you able to?
So I do have one, but it doesn't. I always try to bag the. Well, there you go again. I'm not even a hunter. I try to bag the big buck. I tried to go to the builders, and I came up with a thing.
All right, we're hunters too.
Yeah. Okay. I came up with a thing where I would do a bunch of inspections on their finished home and leave them a consumer package on their kitchen table, multiple copies of it, that someone touring the house could grab. And I made it really cheap for the builders, and so they liked that. But the underlying secret purpose of it was to get my literature in the services I provide in the hands of people walking around looking at homes to buy. Because if I can get that in their hand, then no matter what house they buy, they might call me.
Sure.
Very efficient way to do that. The other way, if you want to go the other way and only get one client, it's to use the tax records of your online. Now that we have the internet, you can get the tax records and see when they bought that house, and then, you know, add 10 months to it. And then your secretary, if she's not doing anything, you know, could be mailing out your packet to people who purchased a brand new home 10 months ago. It's really good if you have like large plans like we have here. We have plans here that are in Colorado that are, you know, 800 homes. So it works really well and efficiently.
Anybody here in South Carolina had any luck with getting the tax record? I know for Greenville County Tax Office, I've tried to tap into that and I've had trouble actually finding it on there. Anybody else in here
That's
from Greenville?
interesting. I mean, everywhere I go, I can do a property search, and it may not be from the assessor's, it might not be from the treasurer's office. It might be on the property search side, because the property search side usually has, and they're all using basically the same software at this point, a section called tax reports. And you can see when the taxes jumped because the property went from a lot to a home with a certificate of occupancy. So you know where that is. The other thing you could do is, hey, Pace, do that for a second. The other thing you could do is, you if you have a big plan and you know where it is, you know about when they started opening it up and selling it. So you could just start going and looking at, again, without the treasurer's office, just the online map of all the addresses, and send them a letter saying that, it's time to do or you should be doing an inspection.
Your volume level just went way down.
Oh, you should, you could go to a big plan and just grab all the addresses and send those, hit them all, telling them it's time to do an annual inspection. And then the other thing that might be even easier is I had family members just anytime they ever saw a for sale sign, even a for sale by owner sign, they would give me that address and I would send them my for sale packet. And that packet basically tells them that, we would like to do a home inspection on the home you're selling. And if my pitch didn't work at the end, I would say, if this pitch didn't work and why I should inspect your house and have copies of the reports all laid out on the kitchen table for every buyer who comes and looks at your place at your open houses, then at least consider me to do your inspection on the home you're buying. And 7 out of 10 people moving are moving locally. So there was another way to reach consumers direct. I'm as these staffers will attest to, I'm a big mail guy. I like bins of mail going out. I mean,
Old school.
yeah, I'm old school, and I didn't turn old school till.
Anybody else having trouble hearing him?
Can you hear me?
Is it just my computer?
All right, it must be me. I'll try to go as close as I can to see my fat face. That's. I turned old school when everyone turned new school. So what I mean by that is when it became clear that everything was going digital, I went back to not only just envelopes, but envelopes with postage stamps on them. And I still to this day use postage stamps and I put them right on there rather than the post office doing them. And people open up my stuff. I also believe in thump value in an era where, you could Google anything. We produced this now that you've had a home inspection maintenance book. Now, how silly is that? I mean, well, it turns out the book could be written in Chinese. Its purpose is not to transfer information. We have Google for that. The purpose is to anchor your home inspection business, contact information, your face, your name, your address, and all that. Nicola, help me close that. On their bookshelf forever, because Americans don't take books and throw them out. I mean, if I took a book right now and I threw it in the garbage, I did this on stage one time. I took a book and I actually threw it in a garbage can. People actually stood up in the audience, like they were like they groaned. So, it goes back to your past clients. I was walking through a grocery store one time, 3 days after I did a home inspection, and I saw my clients that I did a home inspection for, and they looked at me kind of funny as we were coming down the aisle, and they said, "We know you from somewhere. We just can't remember where we know you from." I said, "Well, I did your home inspection." And I realized right then that nobody's going to remember me 3 years from now, 5 years from now. I have to get that book to them with my face on them, with my contact information on them, so they could put that on their bookshelf, so that when they say to their daughter or their coworker or their neighbor, "Oh, I got a good inspector. I can't remember his name, his phone number, his website, or anything, but I have his book on my bookshelf. I know where that is, and I'll give it to you." That's one heck of a recommendation, and that got me a lot of work. 10 years after I sold Peach Inspections, they were still getting calls from books that I put out. And I used to write "do not throw out" office copy on the back of them, and I deliver them to all the real estate offices as well. And those had legs. Those books hung around forever. So that's another thing, another way to sort of just keep, once you're at your spot where you're 3 years, you want to start dominating your market, but you also want to hold on to it and have it generate work for you. So attacking new market is one thing, but you also want to hold the ground. There you go with the military stuff. You want to hold the ground you've already taken and have that ground help you, feed you.
What branch of the military were you?
I was just Army ROTC is all I went through. I was never deployed, but I've always looked at things. I'm a big gun collector, so I've also looked at things a way of in those terms. And like I don't want to say I'm shooting my customers, but like, you're basically hunting for customers, and you want to, you want to hunt them down, and you want them to feed your family. I mean, it's not really different than hunting. And so that's how I kind of think about things. And militarily, I would say try to hold your market now that you have three years going. You should have stats on this stuff too. You should find out from all the real estate agents that are using you, why are they not telling their fellow real estate agents about you? I mean, you might want to just send them a letter asking to do that simple thing that they never thought of. Because these real estate agents, they all have friends who are real estate agents. So, you always want to be you always want to deputize everybody that you have done good work for to be your mouthpiece to gather more work. And I don't care what business you're in. You always want to give your customers tools to sell you. When a person buys a house and pays you that check, I mean, there's almost no sense in ever being nice to them again, because they're not going to buy a house on average for another 6 years. But if you could give them product that they could use, make it easy for them to recommend you to all their friends and family, then that is a very efficient way of marketing. And again, if every year you were able to get all your clients to just recommend one inspection to you, I don't know if you know that old chess game or whatever. It's a story about some king asked the guy what he wanted paid, who upped him out, and he said, I'll take 1 grain of rice today, 2 tomorrow, and just keep doubling it for 30 days. Well, then the 30 days, the guy owned the entire kingdom, because it just grows
Exponentially.
parabolically or exponentially. And so if you could just, get one inspection from everybody that you did work for last year, and some will give you 10, right? Some people really be your fan, then you've doubled your inspection business from just that one move. And if you do that a second year, you've quadrupled it. If you do it a third year, you've times it by 8. At that point, I mean, you're a massive company at that point in 3 years. So, if you look at stuff I've done, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but my stuff grew very big. I have the biggest of everything that I'm into. And I used almost all the same philosophies, to grow. I want people talking good about me, about what we do, So doing A- work or B+ work is probably doesn't inspire anyone to say, you got to try InterNACHI. I mean, they have everything over there. That place is awesome, right? When they talk to their cousin in another state and he's thinking about becoming a home inspector, you got to be like A+++. And so that's why I complained today about an email link not being live linked. I mean, I'm trying to get to A+++. Shooting for the moon. And in every business, I just use InterNACHI because you're familiar with it. And on a local inspection level, maybe you could try to do that. Go A+++. Just scare the heck out of everybody and raise prices accordingly. It costs a lot less to be the best in any industry than the profit that's generated and the prices that are commanded by being the best. I mean, ask Lisa Enzis when she goes to buy a Coach purse or Louis Vuitton. I mean, that purse is not twice a Walmart purse. Maybe it's 3 times a Walmart purse. Yet the price is 200 times, right? So for a little bit more in both quality and the appearance of quality, which matters, marketing matters, they weren't able to double the price over Walmart. They were able to times it by 100 or something, right? A Louis Vuitton purse. So the margins become silly at that point, and I like silly margins.
Well, I guess we're pretty high up on the end of our marketing. I think we probably have some of the best marketing in the area. If you look at our website or any of our brochures or our portfolio stuff, I mean, that looks great. We launched a new website, and I've got to get all the SEO completed on that thing. It's just kind of sitting dormant at the moment, so I've got to get that done. But really appreciate you jumping in on this meeting and giving us the kind of input you have. It's priceless. Really appreciate it.
It's worth at least what I charged you for it.
I don't know the other faces here. I'm sorry. Edward, I'm sorry, I don't recognize the name or the face.
No, that's okay. I'm here in Aiken.
Okay.
I'm working for a firm, and we work both sides of the river, as they say, Georgia and South Carolina. So
Okay.
so that's a little bit interesting. We've got working for a small firm here. I recently got my license a couple months ago, and was
Awesome.
fortunate enough to get a job in a weird market.
Yeah, it was weird when we arrived too, and kind of even has gotten even a little more strange over the last couple of years with all that's been going on. But we have survived and seen an increase regardless. I will say July took a dip that I was not expecting out, and August has not gotten off to much of a good start either. So I'm just like, I wonder, are these realtors going on vacation? Where is everybody? What's going on?
I have seen a lot of it, and I have a lot of friends that have school age kids down in or around your area. So what I've seen is I've had a lot of people, and even, feedback from inspectors, a lot of people have taken their vacations. People are trying to get out, move around, doing their thing. And now with the South, especially, school starting early.
Yeah.
I got some friends even in Georgia saying, hey, my kids went back to school, or my neighbors, family down there. So, and for me, having school age children, my life has been put on hold. We're
Sure.
trying to enjoy the best of summer. We're trying to get everything going up. Even I had a friend who was moving cross country, had a beautiful house, selling her $4 million house, had 1 million offers on it. She was hightailing it out of town, and she finally just said, hey, I'm going to stop right now. This is getting too much. There's too many stipulations in these deals, and my kids, I have to get settled down. So
Sure.
I'm thinking with a lot of people moving, school starting, people want to get their head straight.
Yeah.
And of course, you consider people have been locked down. I mean, even if you walk around, I've been telling a lot of members too, because, a lot of agents were not in their office for a long time. Now people are starting to move. They're finally starting to get comfortable. So those places you were actually, I personally was enjoying not being filled with 1 million people are now coming back to full occupancy.
Yeah.
So people are moving around. So maybe even hitting the floor ground running and starting to visit those offices again and getting back into the traditional items of marketing yourself, face-to-face interaction, because people like that. I mean, even when we got on this meeting, I was talking to Edward before everyone jumped on, and I was asking him, because I found, I've been reviving as we spoke beginning of June. I've been reviving a lot of these chapters. People haven't wanted to get in, and it's been about a 50-50 on how people want to meet up. I mean, depending on how populous the area is. I mean, also too, Tangent and I hosted a South Florida chapter meeting. It was amazing. Over 50 people. But now I wanted to expand it out because, again, I don't want to be hosting the South Florida chapter meeting. So we're taking advantage of that. That's what Nick was referring to. We're bringing Nick down to South Florida. We're hosting a live in-person event. I think I checked, and we have about well over 50 people. The event's not for another month.
We're at it.
What about interest rates? Are interest rates stopping people from listing in South Carolina?
I think interest rates have had something to do with it. What are they at?
Nobody
About
wants to- nobody
7.5%, 8% now?
Yeah, nobody wants to take their 3% loan and go out and buy a new house at 8%.
And you can just about buy a new house for what the older houses are listing for, but I'm hearing that that price adjustment's fixing to happen, and we're gonna see. I'm hearing we're gonna see the real estate market have another crash. So we'll see.
Well, it might be good for us.
Yeah.
Remember, our industry doesn't make money on the real estate market being good. We make it on it being rattled. And so, there's an up and down economy. People have to move. People have kids, they need bigger space. People retire, they can't afford their house, new jobs and all that. All that stuff is pent up in a pipeline, so to speak. And so, although if you see a slow period in our industry, it just means that there's a clog, but it doesn't mean that there's any less transactions. They're just not coming through yet.
Right.
So that all has to come out. People have to move. People die.
Yeah.
And people only live to be 70 some years old. So eventually all this stuff gets sold. And there's still 5 million transactions going on a year
Right.
in the United States.
So
Caleb?
James, I
Yes,
used to
sir.
live in Greenville, and when I
Yeah.
was there a few years ago, they were telling me that like 50 families a month were coming to that area.
Yeah.
Now, a
it's-
lot of that's for industry. I just had an idea. I don't know, it might be way too far out of the box, but a lot of them are coming to the manufacturing plants. There's a pile of those down in Lawrence. You take, what is it, 385 South? I can't remember the name of the road out of Greenville. You'll go down to Lawrence and there's like 10 or 15 manufacturing plants. down there.
385.
Yeah, so there might be a way that if you can market through those plants, talk to their management, leave some brochures, because their people are coming in, temporary housing, and then they buy, they'll live at the long stay apartments and then they buy a house.
Right.
You might be able to, if you could figure out a way to market through that and those plants to reach their employees, you might get ahead of the realtor.
That's true. That's true. Nick, look, I forgot to ask a question, Nick, on builders. Did you ever join forces with any builders? Getting in there to do inspections with them, for them to take some of that stress off of their project managers. I know that's the project manager's job, but we all know that the project managers they're stretched so thin now. Sometimes, managing multiple subdivisions, they're not going to be able to see everything.
So I didn't think it was a very good idea, because those people are already on staff and it's a simple job and they kind of like work for the builder already. Whereas there's a risk going with me. I'm a third party, it has to be honest. So the thing that I helped a local inspector here do is they certified radon and mold. And so we made them a nice certificate on hard copy paper that says this home has been tested for mold and radon, and here are the results. And we got in with quite a few builders here where we went through the houses, something that their project manager can't do. Tested for mold, tested for radon, and left that certificate on the kitchen table, displayed quite nicely.
How are you getting paid on that?
For the builder paid us.
Oh, wow.
The builder paid the inspector for that. And
So what, indoor air quality and mold testing?
yeah,
Radon?
yep, it was just those two. Because in Colorado, basically every house has radon, almost. And mold started to
About
be
50-50 here now.
Yeah. Mold started to be a big, sort of a big scare, a big issue a little bit. And we don't really have much mold here in new construction because of the low humidity here. And so we knew we were going to pass the mold, but and
It's
if there's
high humidity
radon,
here, for
if
sure.
there was really high radon, the builder's going to find out about it anyway. So he's already built in a system under the slab. So all he has to do is hook up the fan.
So how do you market that to the builder?
Well, I went right to each builder. I went right to them. There's, a lot of medium-sized builders here in Colorado. The really big ones are hard, like Lennar and
So in other words, the track home builders aren't gonna probably have anything to do with that.
Well, the tract home builders hire salesmen to sell on site. And when they see, they have competitors too, chewing away at them, right? The medium-sized builders are all chewing away at these big public companies. And so I always thought that once you get a few of them, you could eventually crack the big ones by taking out the medium-sized ones. When the radon system is put in, because it's built in when actually it's required not to be built in when they build a new house, the systems work really, really well. So we were pretty assured on almost every time that we could get a passing radon and a passing mold, certified it, and it looked really nice to put on the kitchen table. And whether that meant something to somebody who was buying a house or not, sometimes it does. Most people
Sure.
buying a medium-sized tract home have kids. If you go through the Wyndham Hills, which is right down the street from me, a bunch of homes, it's hard to find a home that doesn't have kids. And when you have kids, you think about things like mold and radon, and safety, right? So
Why would the builder not just go straight to a, third-party radon company rather than coming through a home inspector?
well, first of all, we don't do repair work, so they know they're getting an honest shake. Second of all, we presented them with a marketing package, not just results. A certificate that is what they wanted on their kitchen table.
Have you
We
got
are,
maybe a copy of that in a computer somewhere? I'd like to see it.
and the inspector is a third party. I mean, he is a mold tester and he is a radon tester, so he's licensed. So that is going direct, I think. I would say the mitigator is indirect. I mean, because he's something, and these builders don't hire mitigators because I said the systems are in. They just install the fans. They already have the fans wired, a place to plug them in. So because of that, I thought that it was a pretty good pitch to do something that they're not worried that they're going to find something. We're going to find something horrible like a full home inspection would. We're basically just certifying that the house is mold and radon free.
Sure.
And that seemed to be good, but these take work. Now, once he got it, he's probably very happy, but it takes a little bit more work than just running a social media ad, doesn't it? Or pushing a button. Anything outside the realm does. Some things are not as profitable as others either. Mold is a very profitable test and radon is not. So, and that's because you have to go to the house twice. And you have to get access twice, and sometimes you don't get access. There's lab fees if you don't have your own equipment. There's calibration fees, there's licensing. So mold, I mean, radon is probably the least profitable as far as I calculate ancillary inspection, other than that if people want mold, if people want radon and a home inspection, it might sell you the home inspection because the realtor wants to get it done all at once. But it's not very profitable, in my opinion. Mold is very profitable. So, I would rather pitch a mold inspection than a radon inspection.
Sure.
Just because of the efficiency and costs and doing radon. Radon is just especially if it's far from you. Like if it's 10 miles away, I'd rather chop off my little finger than go to do a radon, try to get into a house twice, 10 miles away. I mean, I'd rather chop off my finger.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been following Nextdoor and my local, with all these social media channels. I'm part of, I live in downtown Denver. So of course, there's a pretty big area, but even being part of Nextdoor or even my local Facebook page around the area, I joined to find lost animals, honestly. But I find myself in there quite a bit, even prompting our inspector seek, find a home inspector, even our IAC2's website, because you get one homeowner going, man, I heard about radon or somebody got sick from radon. You have a whole block over here. And again, it depends on how dense your area is. I mean, Nick lives in a little bit broader of an area than myself where we're all condensed together, but you get one neighbor talking, next thing you know, all my neighbors on the street. I mean, even the gutter cleaning, when I get my gutters cleaned, the gutter guys come out, they do 5 houses in one shot, all on the same block, because we want to bring the same person in. Wow, we're talking word of mouth, we're out there. So maybe even finding some of those densely populated areas, letting them know. Almost like, the people who paint the houses, you get one person in the area, everyone wants to get it done. Wow, he'll give us a discount.
It's a big
On it.
advantage to letting your neighbor be the guinea pig.
Well, and I wonder too, who is it in the household that are contracting these services, right? Like, at least in my household, I don't do any of that, but I think that it's you laughing at me, Lisa. But I know other households where, man, the wife has the whole calendar, and if you get the right wife, you have all of the wives.
Mostly wives.
That's what I thought.
Nick,
And
thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.